Hi everybody, Leslie here. Today I've got my new puzzles for you. So I'm going to call these sliding puzzle cards. I can't find a version of anything like this anywhere made by anybody. I could find a version where you could move everything made out of like cardboard boxes, but much bigger scale than this. So the idea of this is on a card blank. This stands up on its own, and this is a puzzle. So all these pieces slide in and out. So on this one, I haven't got a stopper around the edges, so they'll slide in from either side. As you can see, this is a nice little, it's just about a 4x4 inch card, which is 10 centimeters squared, more or less. So that one stands up like that. This one, I've not stuck it on a card yet. This was actually my proof of concept card. And this one has been messed around with by my 15-year-old, my 17-year-old, my 17-year-old's boyfriend had a go. Just to make sure that it definitely works. It's obvious how, you put it together. You can do whatever technique you like on the front of these, as long as you can still cut through it with a trimmer. We don't need any specialist dies. We don't need anything except a trimmer's helpful, a ruler and a pencil. On the top, like I say, you can do anything you want. If you like stamping, you can stamp images and do a bit of inking, which is what this is. You can use pattern paper and die cuts, which is what this is. This was just a really quick example. This is just a variation. I wanted to show you this is it. This is basically the same card, slightly different paper, but this is how you could send it with it all mixed up. And this one has got a frame on it. So you make your frame stick on three sides so that your pieces only slide out on one side. So this is mounted on a side fold card in this instance. I've gone through a few different iterations. I thought I'd show you these in the intro. These are my sort of original plans of how I was going to make these. They work in a similar way, but I've made sure I've done the best method, worked through all the mistakes so that you don't have to, on how to put these together so that your puzzle sits really neat and flat. You can see I've made all those mistakes of how it doesn't sit flat. I might revisit this size. This is tiny size. This is 1 centimetre squared instead of 1 inch or 2.5 centimetres squared. So I may revisit this and show you how to do smaller, but that won't be for a few weeks because I'm off on holiday. So thought I'd show you the basics. These two are both in imperial measurements, and these two are both in metric measurements. So these are inches and these are centimetres. Don't worry if you can't remember measurements when I'm going through today. I will do a blog post that's got the measurements that I'm going to give you for both the imperial and for the metric, and they'll be on my website, and my website is www.handmadeinwindsor.co.uk, and in the top corner there's a little button that says blog, and if you're watching this video middle to end of August 2023, it'll probably be the most recent blog post. Otherwise you might have to have a look around and try and find that time frame, but it will be on there. It will be sliding puzzle cards. It means the world to all of us little creators if you can like our videos. If you're already subscribed, fantastic. Thank you so much. If you've not subscribed and you would consider subscribing, that would be amazing. I do a little happy dance every time I get a single new subscriber. Let's get on with it and make these lovely cards. I'm going to start off with the imperial. So everything for this one is in inches, and I'm going to recreate this card but in inches. So what you need to start with is the back piece on this is 4 inches square. So we've got 4 inches square, and just to show you, this bit is going to get glued down, so it can be anything. It can be scrap. I, in this instance, used something that was white on one side because, if I show you, it will show through in these little lines, but it can just be white card, it doesn't matter. It wants to be reasonably sturdy just because it's going to hold your puzzle onto it. And then for the top piece, that's also 4 inches square. So we're going to create this piece first. So hopefully you can see I've got kind of T-pieces in here. Now, these on this example are made of foam tape. And that is by far the easiest way I have found to make it. There are other ways, and I'll explain those. If you don't like using foam tape and you don't have any foam tape, there's another way to do it. So what you need for this is 1, 2, 3 pieces, which are 3/4 of an inch wide strips. So these are all 3/4 inch strips. It'll look slightly out on this one because this one's a metric one. This is the Imperial one. So we've got 3/4 inch strips. So we need 3 of those. So they're going to end up on our piece. And the top and bottom strip, I've been starting out with them 3/4 inch, and we'll cut those down. And I found that easier than trying to make them the right size. 4 inches by 3/4 of an inch. So all you need to do on your base piece is mark 1 inch, 2 inch, and 3 inch. Okay. So nice easy measurements. If you've got a T-ruler, makes life easier. You can obviously do it with a normal pet ruler. You just want them, and they don't need to be dead accurate, but you just want straight lines marked across at 1, 2, 3 inches. I'm just temporarily taping this to here, just lined up with some of the lines, just so I can line up my foam tape going across. Okay, so I'm just sticking it in the middle of that line. Now, if you do not have foam tape, there are other options. One option is to make your own foam tape. So this is white craft foam. It doesn't need to be white, it could actually be any colour. And funnily enough, funky foam, white craft foam is pretty much the same thickness, which is about 2 mil, and that's about, it's probably just over a 1/16 of an inch. But funky foam, craft foam is about the same width. And all I did was stuck some double-sided tape. You can put it on both sides. I've only stuck it on one side at the moment, but you can stick double-sided tape on it and then cut it up with your trimmer into 1/2 centimetre or 3/16 of an inch strips. So that was one other way to do it. Or if you don't like the idea of using foam at all for environmental reasons or whatever, you can cut yourself foam paper strips or card strips and stick those together and keep sticking them together until they're roughly 1/16 of an inch, 2 millimeters thick. So I've done that once, and I have created one with cardboard strips, but I hadn't made them quite thick enough. But you can still do that. There's all different options, but by far the easiest is with foam tape. But you can do it, you can make your own foam tape, or you can make your own paper strips. So again, I'm just making sure that I've got these straight. And that's the only reason I've got it stuck to this board, because I'm rubbish at eyeballing things and getting them straight. So I'm just using the lines on my mat to get these as straight as I can, going across using my pencil line and the grid on my mat. So we've got the 3 across there, and then we need one right on the edge at the bottom. And then right on the edge at the top. And if you can hear snoring or a funny noise, that is my dog snoring. It isn't my stomach. And I know I've said that before. But the smaller of one of my 2 dogs always snores. Okay, so we've got that. And any excess I'm just going to trim off while I'm here. So we've got all the sticky on our base piece. Okay. So our strips are going to go on here like this. But do not, I repeat, do not stick these down yet. Okay. So that's our base piece ready to stick something to, but don't stick it down yet. The next thing you want to do is make what will become the back piece of these. So not the front, we're just making the back. So hopefully you can see. So there's one of our puzzle pieces, and on the back we've got a little T shape. And we're not going to make them all individually. And these are 1/2 inch wide. Okay, so these are 1/2 inch. So each one of these is 1/2 inch wide. So you can see, I can sit it on my mat again. And I'm going to do the same thing and stick my foam tape across the middle. I should say they're 4 inches long. So we've got 4 inches wide. So these are 4 by 1/2 inch. And we're obviously going to need 4 of these. So that's 1. Like I say, you can use scraps. So this is an offcut from one of the snowflake spinning puzzle cards that I made the other day. But no one will ever see this. So the other side's white, which somebody might see because it would be the back. But nobody's going to see this. Okay, full disclosure, I messed up my first piece because I didn't stick my middle one down first. So all I've done, cut myself a new 4 inch square piece, marked my lines, 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, stuck my tape and my tape top and bottom, and I've still got the same little T pieces. So these pieces are what's going to end up with our puzzles stuck to them, and these I've just got sat temporarily in between like this. Now, do as I say, not as I do. No, do as I say. So in this case, we've got our 3/4 inch wide pieces. So these are 4 inches by 3/4 inch. And you want to take your tape off your middle one. Start in the middle, which is the mistake I just made. I didn't do my middle one first. So again, I'm just using my lines to help me eyeball it and line it up, because as I said, I'm really rubbish at lining things up. And I am getting that as close as I can to the middle and it being straight. There is a little bit of leeway in these. Now, like I said, these are our slidey in and out pieces. So let's butt that up. Don't want it really, really tight. I just want enough wiggle room there that it's not going to go flying out when I'm trying to do my puzzle. So this little bit of wiggle, get my next piece, 3/4 inch wide. These are all scraps. And butt it up to it. Okay, so you want this, so it'll still slide in and out reasonably straight. Okay, so we've got that one, and then the same thing at the top. Ooh, don't take the tape off those ones. Take your tape off the top. And this is why I said just do them all 3/4 inch, and we'll trim this one down in a minute. So again, we want this one to slide in and out. So I'm just going to butt that up to it and stick it down. So again, it'll still slide backwards and forwards in that slot. A little bit of wiggle room is fine. Now, coming back the other way, we're going to do the same thing. We can turn it over if it's easier. So here we go. This is our slidey in and out piece. I've got that butted up. Take the tape off. I'm just trying to find roughly matching pieces. So my 3/4 inch piece, again, we're sliding in and out, that's fine. With our last one, same thing again, put it up to it. Okay, so hopefully now you can see all these pieces will slide nicely in and out. Okay, you can let them slide out for a minute. And this is why I said just turn it over and chop off any bits that are overhanging. So that was just my top and bottom piece, and I found that easier than trying to get an exact measurement for those top and bottom pieces. So now you should have a base piece that looks something like this. Okay, so we've got little T-shaped pieces, and we've got these pieces that slide in and out. And they should, oh, hold on, we've got some overhang here. Just before we go any further, if you did have any little overhangs, just chop them off before we go any further. So, like I said, you don't need to have them dead on, because you can always come back and trim them. Same goes for these pieces. You can always trim them a little bit if you need to. So now our little slidey in and out pieces should all be able to go in and slide up and down. Now you're going to say to me, but Leslie, that's just one piece. So now we need to make these 1 inch. So you can use a guillotine, you can mark them with a pencil and cut them with scissors. So you just want to make these all 1 inch wide. And as you can see, my trimmer guillotine will go through them with the foam tape on. And the best thing to do is, as you cut them up, slide them back into your grid so that you don't lose any. Okay, so now we've got most of our puzzle made. Now all we need to do is decorate our top piece, and for this I'm just going to recreate this one. This is Basic Backgrounds. This is from the Works in the UK, and it's got all these lovely like marble papers. And also from the Works in the UK, I've got one of my favourite dies, which just cuts the happy birthday out. This is how I store mine. I've got them in like a card catalogue with a magnet on the back, and that's how I store most of my word dies. If anyone's interested in that, I can show it to you at some point. And I've just got some, this is like a shimmery, it kind of matches the gold in the paper. It's like a shimmery double-sided paper. It's a heavyweight paper, and I've just got it backed already just with some double-sided, just because it's quicker, but you can do it with wet glue. And I'm just deciding which bit of the paper I think I like the most. So I'm just going to stick my paper onto my 4-inch square, and then I'll come back and trim it to exactly the same size as my 4-inch square. I just got plenty wet glue on there because I am going to come back and cut this up, obviously. And I'm just going to die cut this out. There's our top panel made ready. This is where you want to be as accurate as you can be. So I've got my 4-inch square, and to start with I'm going to cut it into strips that are obviously 1 inch each. Okay, so we've got our 4 strips, and to get them as close as possible in this direction to it being square, I have found this is the best way to do it. So I've just got another piece of card. This is just an offcut, and I'm just using it to line them all up together. Okay, so this is just a piece of scrap, and I'm using that to keep them all lined up as neatly as possible together. Okay, and then cut my squares, and I am going to keep them in order over here. Now I've got my piece here, and everything should be more or less lined up. I'm just flipping it over because it looks squarer to me. I don't know why. Now, make sure everything is matching on your puzzle. Okay, so that you are going to stick them in the right order. Starting with our bottom corner, with everything put in, put this tight in. So just push that piece in. They want to sit on top of each other. We can always trim these a little bit on the edges, but square it up to your bottom corner and stick your one piece in. Okay, now take the tape off your next piece, and this is why double-sided tape is easier in this instance. You could, at this point, if you're using your cardboard strips, use wet glue on each of these. That would also work absolutely fine. Okay, so just keep going along and lining up as best you can with everything. Promise you it will work. Just make sure they're sat in there flat. Now I know when I pull these out, they're actually going to be slightly stuck together. And all I'm going to do is pull them back out and give them a little cut, a little haircut, because they were all just pushed slightly over. So I'm not cutting the top panel. I've got, hopefully you can see, I've got my scissors angled away from the top panel, and I'm just cutting a little piece off the T at the back. Okay, you can wait and do this all at the end really. So now when we slide everything back in, keeping it all in the right order, these should all butt up to each other nicely and sit nicely next to each other. Okay, so you just want to do the same on the next row. And not to stick everything to yourself. So I line it up with my bottom piece and stick it to my back piece. Take the tape off, and now we've got two corners to line up. So just holding in the previous 3 pieces in this case. Now we've got 3 bits. Make sure it drops in nice and tight. Oh no, that one's moved though. Not the end of the world, look, it's stuck to my finger. Just slide it back out. If you've got forgiving foam tape, you'll be able to pull it back off. slide this chap back in. There you go. Okay, get everything lined back up. Slide it so it's butted right up to it. Okay, I'll get you back in there. And like I said, don't worry about the extra bits on the edges. It always seems to happen, no matter how many times you think you've got them right. You just give them a little haircut at the end. Okay, so that's all lining up nicely. Next row. Now, me trying to do that quite quickly for you on camera, it's not as perfect as it could have been, but it's pretty good. So like I did with the others, with the bottom row, I am just going to slide these out and give each row a quick little haircut on the side. So again, you just tip your scissors and just cut off a little bit off the back. And it tends to be one side and the other side's fine. And there we go, all made. So hopefully you can see that that matches up pretty well everywhere. Everything slides, not too tight. So the next stage is to put some sort of frame around it. Now, you can do this directly onto your card, or you can do it onto, on this one, I did it onto another piece of scrap. It depends, you know, entirely on what you're doing, what you're mounting it on. If you can think you can get it nice and square, all of the above. So I'm just going to have a go at mounting it directly onto, this is a 5.5 inch square card blank that I happen to have, just an old one out of my stash. So what I'm going to do first is stick the back panel down. It doesn't need to have these pieces in it while I do it, but I'm just going to stick it down. If you're not confident in getting your own panel straight, then do like I did with this one and just stick it onto some scrap that's a bit bigger. The next thing you need is some more foam tape or strips of card. So this is my original foam tape. So this is roughly 2mm deep, or about an 1/8, just over a 1/16 of an inch. And this is roughly double the depth. So it's the same width, but the width is less important this time. It's just a thicker foam tape. If you haven't got thicker, double up, build it up. Or if you're doing it with your own funky foam, stick 2 strips together. However it is, you need it to be a bit thicker than whatever you've used, because we've got a base piece, we've got a top piece, and the idea is we're going to make a frame around this so that we can only slide it in from one direction and the frame's going to hold it in the other direction. So all I did was create myself a frame by butting my tape again so that these will still slide nicely. Make myself a little frame, and it can be a bit longer because it's going to obviously go past the edge. I'm trying to line it up with this bottom edge so that I can complete my frame with a vertical piece there. But we're going to do it on 3 sides. We're not going to do it on all 4, or we wouldn't be able to get our puzzle pieces out. So really this is just a stopper to stop our puzzle pieces from flying out. And again, you can see it's easiest made with a bit of foam tape. So now when we shove all these in, they'll all slide in and out still, but only to this one side. I'm going to do it to match. I'm just going to make my frame in this instance to match my words in the middle. I'd obviously did it in black because that was in rainbow. So this is just the paper. Well, yeah, it's only a paper. It doesn't need to be really thick. these pieces are all 5 inches by 1/2 inch. So this is a 1/2 inch frame. So we need 1/2 inch strips. So I've cut 2 5-inch strips, 2 4-inch strips, and the first 4-inch strip will get stuck here, flat to the card, and then the 5-inch strips stick top and bottom. And the other 4-inch strip on this side. So I've made mine all a 1/2 inch wide, so it should all match up if my measurements are roughly right. It looks like it's going to. Now I think because I've made these 1/2 inch wide and this isn't the thickest, I am going to put another line, double-sided, just butting up to this one. But again, if you don't have foam tape, you could build this up with cardboard strips. Not done that perfectly on the edge, but I can trim it. But this is where I said if you want to stick it onto a piece of card before you do this bit, you can. And then we'll just put glue on this piece. This isn't going to be perfect, but you get the idea. I'm going to trim that piece so it's at least straight on that corner. And I've got foam tape sticking out somewhere I shouldn't. And that piece doesn't look straight, but there we go. You get the idea. I might cut another piece for in here and quickly peel that out before the glue sets too much. So I'm just going to trim another piece to go in there. There we go, better. I've made my, I don't know how I did it, but I've cut my strip at the top, slightly too short, but you get the idea. So that was how I contained my pieces, so they won't come out from that side, but this way they'll still slide out. So yeah, you just need to build up a frame with foam tape or something, cardstock strips, whatever is your preference. So there's our card. So we could do a greeting inside, and I think I would probably send this one mixed up. So should we give it a mix and see what it looks like? So if you sent it with the pieces, you know, in a separate little baggie or an envelope or whatever, your card's going to look like this. So your other option is obviously, because you'll see, because of the way we did it, that they won't all exactly match up. So you almost want to keep the same lines and mix the same lines. So there we go. I think I'd probably send this like that, and then obviously personal message on the inside. Make it say, you know, do your own puzzle, match your own card, whatever you want, you know, to put on the inside. And yeah, I try and keep them, I think, on the right row, because they're not all dead on. It fits better if you try and keep them on the right lines. So mix up the line rather than mixing up the whole thing. But you can still see, still pretty cool puzzle. So that one was using Imperial measurements. I think we'll have a go and do one with metric measurements. I'm starting out with 10 centimetres square, which if you're an Imperial person, you should be able to see that 10 centimetres squared is only a tiny smidge. It's about a 1/16 of an inch less than 4 inches. So the metric one comes out just a tiny bit smaller. So again, I've got my top piece, which is 10 centimetres squared. I've got my base piece, which again is just a piece of scrap, and that's also 10 centimetres square. For the lines going across, we need to measure this time at 2.5 centimetres. So it's quite logical. We're splitting it into 4 equal bits, so 10 centimetres, 2.5 centimetres, so 2.5, 5, and 7.5. And draw our lines across on our back panel. And these are just guidelines to get the tape running straight. Okay. And my glass board is in centimetres, so I can use it, and I'm using exactly the same foam tape. Hopefully I've got enough of this left on this reel for this card. Okay, so base piece ready to go. Now for the strips for the top piece, I've done everything 1 centimetre and 2 centimetres. These are 2 centimetre wide strips. These are the ones that are going to get stuck on here. Okay. And the top and bottom are actually going to end up being 1 centimetre because my tape is 0.5 mil. It actually works out, but we can do it the same way. So they're the ones that will end up stuck on there. So they're 2 centimetres. But we need to make our inside pieces. Now, I made all of the pieces for these. These are 1 centimetre strips. So we need 1 centimetre strips by our 10 centimetres. So these are all 1 centimetre by 10 centimetres. So the same thing, put the tape in the middle of the back of these. There we go, we've got our strips ready. So as I said, start in the middle and peel off the tape on your middle one. Oopsie, dropping things. Just getting my bin ready. So these are our 2 centimetre. So we've got 1 centimetre, 2 centimetres. So I, again, just using my lines to help me line it up. Get that in the middle. And it's nice and easy if you've got a board behind it. Could have been straighter, but we'll go with it. Okay, so like I said, now we need to butt this up to this. So our puzzle strip, butt it up to it. Peel off our next backer. And drop it on the tape so that this can still move in and out. Okay, and while we're here, let's do the top one again. So this is going to move in and out. Now I'm going to flip it upside down and do the other side. Okay, don't need those in there for now. We're going to cut those up in a sec, but we just need to turn this over and trim from the back. We've got our 10 centimetre square. Just if you've got any overhanging bits, just while we're here, just give it a little haircut from behind on the edges as well. And because these are quite skinny strips, I'm just going to, I tend to use the edge of my glass mat, and then these all need to be 2.5 centimetres again. So I'm just going to mark all of these at 2.5, 5, 7.5. Cut on those little marks, and I am just going to keep them slotted together. There we go, that's all ready to go to the sticking part. So now what we need to do is do whatever we're going to do for our top panel. So I've got my stamps ready, and they are from the latest copy of Creative Stamping. And because I'm a subscriber, my copy dropped through the door yesterday, which was Monday, and I think it's not out in the shops until Thursday. So if I manage to get this edited and out there, this might even be out there before this is out in the shops or released on Craftstack. So this is the latest copy. So this is issue 125 of Creative Stamping magazine, and this one is in conjunction with Stamps by Me. So I've got quite a lot of Stamps by Me stamps, and this is obviously it's called Music and Song, and it also came with Stamps by Me embossing border as well. So I'm using this one, this one, this one. Oh, and some of the little musical notes from down the bottom as well. So there's a piano and a guitar and things. I thought loads of these would make for good silhouette stamp. I am going to leave those in there because I might come back and overstamp. Okay, so I've just grabbed spun sugar, scattered straw, tumbled glass and shaded lilac. Okay, so I've just given this a quick heat set. I messed up my inking a little bit, dipped my brush in the wrong colour, you know. So, as we did before, we need to cut this up. Now, this needs to be in 2.5 centimetre strips. And I'm just going to show you, that's not so easy because this really, although it's got both measurements, it's quite hard to see where the 2.5 is because the grid lines on it are set at inches. So it throws my eye out. So when I'm cutting centimetres, I tend to use a different type of trimmer just because I can line up to the 2.5 centimetres better. And then we're going to do the same process. So starting in the bottom corner, push them over, peel off the tape on your bottom corner and lining it up to the bottom. Remember, there's a bit of wiggle room, it's fine. Next piece of tape off. Get that butted up as square as you can, shove it in and line it up. And I promise you, this gets you the squarest, neatest puzzle. I tried 2 or 3 different ways of assembling, and this this way, making strips, definitely, and cutting them up, and then cutting your whole top piece in one go, definitely came out the best every single time from all the different methods that I tried. So hopefully I've done all the experimentation so you don't have to. There we go, all stuck together. And as I did before, I am just going to come back and give just the edges just a little haircut. So like I say, tip your scissors and just give your edges, as you can see, hopefully, yeah, you can see it's just hanging out the edge a little bit. And usually it'll be on one side and not the other. All stuck back together. Right, so we just had a little haircut, and I think we'll go with the black frame on this. So I'm just going to show you how to do it. So rather than stick it direct to the card, so again, just scrap, doesn't matter what, you're never going to see any of this. This is 14 centimetres square. It doesn't need to be that big. We'll cut it down at the end. I just thought I'd show you a different way to put your frame on. All I did was stick that on to my back piece. And I've just got some scraps of black. And if you're trying to use scraps like this, always have a bit of tape that you can always just stick it in place. Just enough that you're holding it square. So there you go. And I've got 1 centimetre strips, and that was how I cut all my 1 centimetre strips. I'm just going to do the same thing I did before and stick my thicker foam tape around my puzzle on 3 sides. You can try and cut them to the right sizes, especially whilst you're trying to ignore your dog barking at the door to get in. So, and then line that one up square. Line that one up square. And then put my piece, cut it just slightly longer because it's going to hide underneath. Make sure it will slot in. No, I'll have to trim it a tiny bit. Because my foam tape's sticking out underneath. So there we go. So we'll stick that there and then we'll cut those off square. Now, if you've got a nesting square that fits, if you've got square dies or a frame die that fits, there's obviously scope to do it using a die to make frame of some sort. But I thought we would have a go at doing this card with no dies, so that if you don't have a die cutting machine, if that's not your thing, you can still make this card. As I said, this is just a piece of scrap, and all you need to do now is get your scissors in there and cut it just so it's smaller. So it didn't need to be sat on it square, it just needed to be big enough to get your foam tape and your frame on. So again, I'm just tipping my scissors at an angle, tucking them under my frame there, and then this one I will just cut square to the piece that I put in there. I might just, because I've not cut that off square, I might just need to do that. No one but me will ever know. So there we go. So that's ready to mount it onto whatever shape or size card you want. So there we go. There she is. Live in the moment with her little headphones on. All slide in, all slide out. I'm going to go back and recap all the sizes for you. These are inches, and this one, and I've not redone it, and this one are in centimetres. If you're doing it in inches, your panels are 4 inches squared, and you're going to end up cutting your top panel into 4 inches square. Everything's inch square. For the strips that are hidden underneath, the pieces that you use to make your back tees, these are 1/2 inch wide. The pieces that are stuck to this back panel, these are 3/4 inch. So that's 3/4 inch stuck on your back panel, 1/2 inch stuck on your tees, trust me, these measurements work. I fiddled around to make sure that they work. And the foam tape that's in between, in my case, is 5mm, 3/16 to 1/4 inch foam tape is what I've used. Or cut yourself cardboard strips, which is what these are, but it makes it a lot harder to cut through. And then on my frame, I did a 1/2 inch frame around the outside. If you do it in centimetres, you make yourself a 10cm square, a bottom piece, top piece, and you cut it into 4 equal things, which is obviously 2.5 centimetres. And then the strips stuck down, these are 2 centimetres, and the strips stuck on the back are 1 centimetre. The ones on the back, you could make those a bit bigger, but 1 centimetre worked. So I was just trying to keep the numbers simple, and I went for a 1 centimetre frame round this one. That is how you make a sliding puzzle card. Thank you so much if you're still watching and you've stuck with me. I hope you like these. I am off on my holidays for a week or so I will be quiet for a week. Hopefully you'll comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll still be answering comments. So if you've got any questions, stick them in the comments and I will try and answer them from my sun lounger in somewhere nice and warm. And yeah, hopefully by the time I get back off my holidays, some of you might have had a go. Please do tag me if you do have a go at making any of these. I'm on Instagram at Handmade in Windsor Lab. I'm on Facebook. I've got a Facebook page that's at Handmade in Windsor Lab as well. Comment on the video. Tell me where you've posted them, if you post them on Instagram. I'm on Pinterest as well, at Handmade in Windsor Lab on Pinterest as well. And I will try and put up a blog post with all the measurements. So if you can't remember any of the measurements, I will stick that on a blog post. So my blog is on my website, which is www.handmadeinwindsor.co.uk, and in the top corner it just says blog, and it should be the most recent blog post if you're watching this anytime around the middle to the end of August in 2023. Otherwise you might have to have a little search around on my blog, but that's on my webpage. That's handmadeinwindsor.co.uk. So yeah, I will try and do a big blog post with measurements in it for the Imperial and for the metric. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I will hopefully see you in a few weeks on another video. Bye for now.